live in the Star Lounge.
We're back here at Star 98.7 in the Star Lounge with the lovely Jewel. I was watching you do that last song, and I was thinking if I was hearing this on the radio, I would be thinking there's two guys sitting either side of you playing guitars and doing backup. It's just you standing there in a great pair of shoes and playing guitar. Absolutely amazing.
Well, if I was Dolly Parton, I'd have high heels and long fingernails, but I haven't quite developed that yet. I will.
Jewel is back with a brand new album called Goodbye Alice in Wonderland. And did you find that writing your poetry changed the way you wrote songs?
You know, actually, it was the opposite. I always wrote poetry, actually, from quite a young age, and prose. And I'd sung my whole life, but I never did learn guitar till I was about 16. So I learned guitar, actually, so I could hitchhike through Mexico for spring break, like all parents hope that their children do one day. And
Wait, someone who looks like you doesn't need to learn guitar to hitchhike through Mexico. It's guys that need to learn guitar.
I had it so backwards. But I was going to street sing. I was going to take a train from Michigan down to San Diego, and I didn't have enough money to make it except to Chicago, so I would street sing in Chicago, and I got enough money to get on the train and make it to the next city. And I made it to San Diego and did hitchhike around Mexico and made it back up. And I just wrote one song over and over and over. I only knew 4 chords, and because I'd written poetry and sung my whole life, it just seemed really easy to make up words. But I didn't mean to do it. You know, I didn't mean to become a songwriter. It just kind of happened, kind of.
When did you decide, wow, this is what I want to do?
You know, it was weird. I had a couple different majors in school. I was an art major. I did marble carving and visual arts as well, which I really liked a lot. But I guess I'd sung my whole life, and my singing voice was pretty developed by the time I was 18. And when I ended up homeless, it was just kind of the easiest way to make a living. I'd sung in bars my whole life, and that's all I'd really ever done is just kind of bar gig and tour around. So I just thought I'd make a living, you know, with getting the door money and tips, which is what I did while I was living in my car. And, you know, I didn't ever do a demo or try and get a record deal. I used to do 4-hour sets. When you sing in a bar, you have to do a 4-hour show. And I didn't have that much material, so I just started writing and writing and writing. So I was like, I need 4 hours worth of material, and I couldn't read music, so I couldn't learn cover songs. And that just is how I started writing all my first songs. And then record labels started to show up, you know, in the parking lot of this coffee shop, and there'd be, you know, record executives in the audience. It was very strange.
Was there a moment you went, wow, it's all starting to happen?
I remember, like, yeah, somebody took me out and bought me a taco, some record label.
It wasn't one of the guys in Mexico where you were hitchhiking?
No. Had I known but about expense accounts then, I would have really made them take me somewhere different than a taco stand. But, you know, they said, we'd like to make a record with you. And I remember thinking, boy, are you guys stupid. Like, I just wrote silly folk music. You know, I didn't think it'd go anywhere, but I wasn't going to tell them that.
You know, I love it when you talk because you say these things as though it's the norm. You know, in the last break you said about, you know, decided to give something up, so you gave up making movies.
All right.
You also said in the last break about, you know, being in love half sucks. And now you just said, well, you know, and then I ended up homeless, like everybody ends up homeless. How did you end up homeless? We all know that you were for a while living out of the car, etc. But what was that transition from, you know, losing your home and suddenly going, I've got nowhere to sleep tonight?
Oh, you know, I had a little apartment that I lived in, and I worked several jobs. And the truth, actually, what happened is I'd been late on rent. I was barely making enough money at my job. I was usually paying, like, the last $5 of my rent in change, you know. Couldn't buy, like, I was stealing toilet paper from restrooms. You know, I'd check which ones were locked. Sometimes they don't let, you can't steal all toilet paper from all restrooms, like only certain ones. So, like, Denny's was a particularly good place to steal toilet paper
from. The ones
from.
Star, yeah.
Good to know. So I was, like, stealing, like, toilet paper and things like that, just kind of make ends meet. And I'd been late so much on my rent. My landlord was very nice, but he was finally like, you know, you really need to pay your rent this time. And I had a boss try and sleep with me, and I had turned him down. And my paycheck was due that day, and he wouldn't give me my paycheck. And that was the day my rent was due. And the boss wouldn't give me my paycheck, and I was just kind of, you know, I was stuck. And my landlord kicked me out, and I couldn't get my paycheck from my boss. And I had a little car, and I was like, I mean, I grew up in Alaska, like, with an outhouse and no electricity. It was like, my car was like my own private suite. I didn't have to share it with my brothers, you know. It was like, it just was a relief to get to live in my car. It was like, I didn't have to worry about that rent every month. And then I just got to read and play music, and I don't know, I thought it was kind of nice, actually.
Do you remember buying your first house?
Yeah.
Is that a big deal?
Yeah, I mean, I went from never having a checkbook in my life to buying $1 million home when I was 21. You know, it was surreal. It's still really surreal to me.